Hey folks, I'm Scott of Scotty's Gunworks. What I thought I'd do today is make a video on this little rifle right here. It's a little chipmunk bolt action 22 rifle. Belonged to the fella's granddad, and what he wants to do is he wants to have it all fixed up and he wants to pass it down to his grandson. So what I thought I'd do to it is we're going to checker the grip frame on it, we're going to checker the forearm on it, going to put a real shiny finish on the wood, real shiny finish on the bluing, and even go as far as jeweling the bolt on this rifle. He had some engraving done on it, some inlays done there. We're going to leave all that on there. It's a really fun, neat rifle to do a video on. Like I said, it's an old family heirloom. He wants to pass it down to his grandson, and thought we'd go ahead and do a video on this one from start to finish, you know, showing the steps, the checkering step, the finishing of the wood step, the bluing step, and the, you know, the jeweling of the bolt step. Just kind of several videos in one. Alright, here we are at the bench. And what I thought I'd do, our first step is going to be obviously to take everything apart. This is a pretty simple takedown. One takedown screw there holds the stock to the barrel and receiver. Of course, what I do is I take all the hardware off of it. You know, the trigger guard, it's all got to be blued, so obviously you'd want to take it off the wood. Being very careful not to let the screwdriver slip and scar the wood up. Just creates more work for you. Supposed to work smart, not hard. And what I do, folks, is I'll lay one pile here with everything that's got to be blued, and the things that I'm not going to blue, I'll put in a little box over here. Being careful to watch for springs and things like that. Don't want nothing to get away from you. Of course, this right here is a trigger here. We will not blue it, so it'll go into a box. I'll put all its parts together, put it in a separate box. We got the blue box and we got the non-blue box, so that's how that works. And we got the front sight, which is looks like it's silver soldered on there, so we leave that on there obviously. And I think the gun itself is ready to be polished. Then we'll take the bolt down, and looks like that it's going to have to be polished, but we will not blue the bolt. All we'll do to it is just polish it up really nice and jewel it, and I'll show you the steps when I get around to doing that part of it. Probably all I'll do is pull this bolt handle out here, or the hammer firing pin assembly. It's the proper name for that. And just kind of bright it in there pretty good, so I'll take that pin out. Probably won't show myself doing that. It's pretty simple process. You just got a pin there you got to drive out. I'll have to set my little anvil up to do that. But anyway, that's our first stage, the disassembly of the firearm, and we'll go into the woodworking room here in a few minutes and start on our wood. Alright, here we are in the wood, we're in the polishing room actually, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start taking the finish off of this piece of wood here. What I've got here is I've got a polishing wheel that I've got set up especially for finish removal on wood. Basically, it's just a polishing wheel, a loose muslin wheel here, and I've got some 140 polishing array on it. And it does a really good job of taking the old finish off. Don't want to bear down on it real hard. Basically, the same principle as polishing metal. I've got my fan cut off where I can, you know, where you can hear me. So normally I'd have the fan on, I'd have a dust mask on if I didn't have the fan on, but I'm going to just kind of leave the fan off. It ain't going to take just a few minutes to knock this finish off, and then I'll take it over to the sanding area and I'll fine tune it with sandpaper. When you do this, you just kind of want to go light with it, stay off the corners. Does a really good job of taking out any bad places. It's sanding it, so you don't want to hold it in one spot too long. Or not, but there it is. It's taking that old finish off really nice. And down here where they've got their engravings done and stuff, we'll be really careful around that. I'll probably take a block sander and go over that. Definitely don't want to do it with this wheel right here because we don't want to scoop it out, you know. This just kind of hurries the process up when you use this wheel here. When you take the finish off, you're either going to use sandpaper and do it the old-fashioned way, which is going to take a lot of time, you know. This right here just knocks the finish off, and then I take it over to the sanding bench and fine tune it with the sandpaper. So I can do that. This right here enables me to get the like the nicks and things like that out of it. You can do it with a file, you can do it with sandpaper, but this right here kind of hurries the process up a little bit. Leave the character of the wood in there. You don't want to take off any sharp edges or anything. When the abrasive wears down, take your 140 polishing roll ready and just kind of put it all back on there. I apologize for the camera. Get back to the fridge. We'll got the fan on. We'll get some of this dust out of here. As you've seen on the other videos, I'll take that hairdryer and I'll kind of hurry the drying process up with the polish array that I put on the wheel. That's the purpose of the hairdryer. You want to be really careful, just like you would in metal. You want to be really careful around these cutouts and stuff. You want to keep the characteristics in there. And like a metal polish, and you've got different size wheels there you can use, you know, for the wood. I've got a little box here made up, a little kit of different things in here for the stock. Sanding I use on these wheels that I use on this machine here for the removal of old finish. Really nice job. There we go. Got all the finish knocked off of that. It'll take just a few minutes. Now I can just take it over here to the sanding bench and just kind of fine tune everything. Take a block sander, go over these inlays here, and keep all that nice and sharp. And what we'll do is we'll get all this whole finish off, and we'll get ready to put the checkering work in it. Then we'll start to finish. All right, here we're over here at the sanding bench. And what I've done here is I've kind of went over it with some sandpaper, just basically knocking off any bad places and kind of smoothing everything down after I took it off the took the finish off, the old finish with the wheel over there. Got everything pretty much sanded down, just kind of going back over it, kind of smoothing it up really nice. Holding the camera with one hand. I think everybody gets the general idea here what I've been doing over here. So basically that's what you do. You just kind of get everything ready for the next step. And I'll just kind of fine tune it with this fine sandpaper and smooth everything up, making sure that there ain't no bad places left behind in it or anything like that, till we get a nice piece of wood there. And then our next step is going to be to checker it. We'll put our grip checkering on there, and then our forearm checker, and just simple patterns, nothing fancy. And anyway, we'll go over that when we get around to doing it here in a few minutes. All right, here we are getting ready to do some checker work on the stock. Just kind of getting everything staged and set up. But before I go any further here, I kind of want to explain some things. With the checkering, you can order these little kits right here, and that's kind of what they look like. I think Brownell sells them, and I think you can get them online. And basically, they're just decals, and you just stick them on your wood there, and you kind of follow the master guidelines there. And I've used them, and they do pretty good. But I prefer to just draw them out by hand. I done kind of went ahead here a little bit, and I'm going to show myself putting some lines down and stuff. What I do, the reason why I'd rather do them by hand instead of using those decals is because sometimes they don't go with the contour of the stock like I like it. And this way I can just take my pencil and I can kind of follow the contour of the stock here and kind of custom fit it to the stock. Basically, this one right here was the smallest one I had in there, and it would have been just a bit too big maybe. It's an old one I had. So what I did, I kind of used that as a pattern, but I kind of sized it down a little bit. And basically what you do is you just take and draw it out on there with a pencil. Then you take this little scribe right here and just kind of put a little dent in it. Then after you do that, you take your checkering tool and you just cut it on your checkering tool here. Let's see if you can see that. One side's going to be smooth, like a sleigh or ski, and the other side's going to be a cutter blade. And you got a left one and you got a right one. And basically you put the ski part, the smooth part, into the little cutout that you made with this little indentation. Of course, I'll go ahead, and I'll take this right here and I'll cut the little cutout a little bit deeper by following the little indentation with this right here. Cut it in a little bit deeper after I do that. And then it just helps me to keep the little smooth part in the little cutout there. And basically, it's going to be as straight as that cutout. And you just basically cut it and follow your guidelines. And I've got my guidelines already laid out right here. And what I'll do is I'll cut the light off, because you're going to have to cut all your lights off and just have one light. That's really the only way you can see that. It's the only way I can see it anyway. And plus I have to wear these magnifying glasses. So I'll go ahead and get it all staged and try to get me my bipod over here where I can kind of shine it down on the work. Kind of give you more of an idea of how I go about cutting this. Alright folks, I hope y'all can see that. I got the camera set up here. I see that there's a glare on that, so I apologize if you can't really see what I'm doing here. I don't have a camera person down here, so I'm trying to make this work with just myself here. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut a few lines. What I usually do is I take a little wax. keeping that smooth part in that little cutout there that I've already made. You want to angle this light here to where it kind of casts a shadow. I hope everybody can see this. I know you probably can't when I turn it, and I apologize for that. These checkering videos are kind of difficult for me, especially when I'm down here by myself. And what I do is when I cut each line, I'll just rest the smooth part of the checkering tool in the slot, the previous slot I just cut. And I'll keep it as straight as I can. Just want to go really slow with it. Don't really get no real big hurry. I mean, it goes pretty fast once you get started really good. And I always go, I don't never go all the way to the border. Right there, I got me a little border cut there. I hope y'all can see that. And I'll go just right before it, because I don't want to cut into it. And if I do, it's no big deal. I'll go back later on and clean it up with a little bit of sandpaper and just kind of clean it up with these checkering tools. Always start out really light. First pass is a real light pass. Kind of turn the stock as you need to. Keep it nice and light. And when I get my confidence and I feel like it's a nice straight line, and that's when I'll kind of bear down on this a little bit and cut it in a little bit deeper. Basically how that all works. Got a little wax here, kind of makes it go by a lot smoother. I've checkered lots of stocks, and a lot of times I'll check them with a finish on there, and that's when you really got to be careful. It's hard to clean it up, you know, if you happen to mess up, but you can clean it up. You just have to go really light with it. Of course, after you get it all checkered, then you put you a sealer on the checker. And what I like to do in a situation like this, I like to go ahead and cut the checkering and then refinish it, put the first coat of True Oil on it, and then put some masking tape over it after that. That way my checkerings won't fill in with the finish. Making progress. See, pretty decent. I'm kind of looking at the camera here from the back here. Just want to make sure everybody can get somewhat of a good view of this. I know you can't want to turn the stock, and I apologize for that. It's just the way it is with this. I need me a camera person down here holding the camera for me. But the problem with me is I don't ever know when I'm going to be making these videos. Ain't none of them really rehearsed or anything. And about every one of these videos I've ever made has been a spur of the moment video. Just really want to be careful when you're doing this, because in this particular case right here, it's got like a, not really a palm swell, but it's not smooth. The wood ain't, the contour ain't. It's kind of cut out, you know, to fit the hand. And so you're kind of going over some little hills and little valleys here, and you know, if you get carried away with it, you'll wind up getting out of your track. I got on my track just a little bit. No big deal. When that happens, just get right back in your track and go ahead and finish cutting it. And depending on how deep it is, which in this case here, just barely, not much to speak of. It's coming along pretty good. I'll cut a few more lines, and then what I'll probably do is just cut the camera off. I won't bore you with sitting through all this. Just kind of wanted to give everybody a basic idea of how this is done. I wish I could show you from start to finish, but it is kind of a timely process. And I'm afraid that everybody that's watching, if I did it from start to finish on this checker here, you'd probably go to sleep. But anyway, I believe everybody's kind of got the idea. I'll go ahead and finish checkering this panel right here, and then I'll sit up on the front part here, and we'll do the front part. Then we'll turn it over, and we'll do this side right here, and then we'll be ready to put our finish on. All right, folks. Here's the one panel done. Turned out really nice. Got it finished. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and probably go ahead and do the forearm part here. And then once we get this side here completed with our checkering, we'll flip over and do the back. Just kind of wanted to show that. That's where we are so far with it. Once we get it all checkered, then we'll start to put the finish on it. All right, what I've done here, folks, is I've set this stock up on the other checkering cradle here. I kind of got my camera set up, so hopefully you can see that a little bit better. Basically what I'm doing is I'm fixing to lay the pattern out here on the forearm of this stock here. So what I've done is I've took and kind of penciled in my pattern there. Just kind of did it with a ruler there, you know, and just went over with a pencil, just all common sense. And what I like to do is when I'm putting a pointed pattern on it, like this one right here is going to be, I think you can see some of that, is I'll just kind of pencil it in, and I won't do anything to the back part just yet. So what I'll do is after I get it kind of penciled in, kind of the same, you know, contour of the stock, I'll take me a hard surface like this ruler right here. This is kind of the way I do it. A lot of people do it different ways. And I'll just lay the ruler right there on that pencil mark that I made. Put a little bit of tape on it there, kind of helps stabilize it. Like so. Take another little piece of tape and like that. Then what I'll do is I'll take a scribe and I'll just kind of follow that pencil mark. Make sure the tape's good and tight. Don't want to put a lot of pressure on it. Then I'll just kind of put that indentation down so far. It'll probably wind up being a little bit longer, but I'm going to leave it right there for now. I'll just take the tape off and do the other side. Like I said, we got these decals here we can use, but they're too big for one thing. And I don't have anything any smaller. And besides that, even if I did, I'd probably continue to do it this way, because this way I can custom fit a pattern to the contour of the stock. Just making sure I can see that pencil lead mark there. And just a moderate cut. Don't have to be real deep. Then I'll take and kind of do the same thing here. Kind of put that point out in it. I've already got the point pre-drawn. Kind of go light. Put the point on there kind of light. Same principle here. And because I'm left-handed, sometimes it's a little difficult, but I always manage to get it done. As long as I got that little indentation cut out in that, that'll give me a track for this cutter blade to ride on. So we've got a left-handed one and a right-handed one. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start cutting that out. Kind of angle the light here where you can kind of see it. Probably what I'll do in this case right here, I'll just take and let's see. Guess I better get my old magnifying glasses on. I hope I don't get in the way of the camera there. Kind of got it positioned up there. So I'll go really slow, making sure I stay in that little groove I just cut with that scribe. And like I said, I won't put the back part on just yet. I'll just leave that open. And the reason why I don't do that is because when I follow these points here, it's going to continue on out, and it's going to wind up looking like that right there. And I can make that as long as I want it. My point is, it's going to always be perfect with these right here because it's going to be a continuous of this right here, these angles right here, until it comes out to there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut it in with these checkering tools here, and after I get a little bit of it done, I'll turn the camera back on and kind of show you the progress and cut some lines with the camera on. Just kind of want to make sure we got everything all laid out and that we're started off on the right foot. All right, here we are with the finished product as far as our checkering is concerned. Got that all laid out there and finished up. Just kind of go back and do a little cleanup on it. And then what I'm going to do next, I'm going to transfer the pattern from this side to this side, and I'll show you how I would go about doing that. All right, folks, now we're ready to go ahead and transfer our pattern to the other side. Basically, it's just all common sense. You just take your piece of paper, kind of tape it over the checker pattern, and take a pencil and just kind of mark over it, kind of easy like. That way you'll have a pretty precise pattern. And you won't go exactly by this pattern, but it'll pretty much help you to line everything up to where it'll be lined up like it's supposed to be on the other side. Of course, you know, obviously the contour is going to be the same on this side right here as it is on the other side, so probably won't have to modify this little pattern too much. Then you just basically take your scissors, like I say, it's just all common sense, and cut it out. This end right here doesn't really mean a whole lot because, like I said, I'm going to start up here at this end and work my way towards that end. And it should line up pretty close to this, the way this looks. So basically what I'll do is just turn it over, and because I put it like that right there, I'm going to flip it. Basically do it like that right there. And then what I'll do is I'll tape that down, and I'll take my little pencil, wherever I done with it anyway. Here it is right here. I'll take my little pencil and I'll just kind of put little dots there. And then I'll just kind of connect all the dots. I won't connect them on this end right here. I'll just go down so far. That way I'll have the same line contour, but I won't worry about the inside of that right there. But I will connect the dots on the point. These 3 points here, bring it on down. And that way I know it's going to be the same contour. And now I'll look at it, you know, this way right here. And I'll kind of use a little common sense, and I'll just look at the point here, and I'll make sure it lines up with the point here. And it'll be the same principle on this end right here. Let's see that. Anyway, I won't bore you with all the fine details on that, because there really ain't no details to show you here other than just, you know, what I've just explained. I'll go ahead and get everything laid out on here and drawn, and then we'll get started on this side right here. I done went on ahead and laid down some lines here. Got a few cuts on this piece right here on this other side. What I do is try to position the light to where everybody can see here what I'm doing. Just want to remember, just always start out really light. Keeping the tool as straight as you can. Try to stay in the middle of the tool. You know, it's kind of got an arch to it. Try to stay in the middle of it most of the time if you can. What kind of messes you up, and I might have done mention this, is it's got a little bit of a curvature to it there. If you ain't real careful, that whole bottom section will be kind of leaning towards the bottom. And the object of the game is to keep it as straight as you can. That's why it's good just to go really light when you start out down here on this end. Keeping the tool as straight as you can. If you happen to mess up, it'll be really light and you just sand it out. Like I said, when you're doing this kind of the way I do it anyway, you got to kind of sort of think outside the box. Believe everybody can see that. And if you don't really pay attention, you'll find yourself kind of cocking the tool a little bit over to the side. And what'll happen is like I mentioned, you'll make them lines wider than what they should be, and then you'll start jumping the little track there. So you just want to kind of really stay focused, and it makes you a little sleepy sometimes when you're sitting there doing this for a long time. You really got to stay alert. I apologize if you can't see it real good. I tried to position the camera in a different position here to everybody can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. But Anyway, what I'll do is I'll go ahead, I think everybody's got the idea here. I'll go ahead and cut the camera off. I'll go ahead and finish this panel here and clean it up, and then we'll start on the grip. All right, folks, we finally got the forearm checkered on this. Now we're going to get set up and do the grip. Of course, the other side's completely finished. Looks really good. We'll get that grip finished and we'll have our checkering part done. Then we'll be ready to set up and get ready to put the finish on. Thought I'd tell you a little bit about the equipment I have here. This is an old checkering cradle. I built this thing probably about 20 years ago. 2001, I believe, when I actually made it. Or it might have been around 1999, 1998, something like that. Anyway, it's been around a long time and I've used it quite a bit. Works real good for holding it. It's light. You can take it out of the vise and you know, turn it around, however you got to do that. Got another one over here. This one here's mainly not used for checkering. It's mainly used for holding stock, so I can, you know, maybe shape the stock out. You know, you've seen that in previous videos. I think the stock making videos where I used it. But anyway, what I use is the Bar Checkering System. Basically, it's just a handle here you order from them, and then you order the blades. And you just basically set you up a little system like this right here. I got an assortment of these. Got them set up here for 22 per inch, 22 diamonds per inch. What we're using on this stock over here would be 18 diamonds per inch. Works really good. Like I said, I got these decals here and I don't hardly ever use them. I've had these things around for quite some time. I usually just kind of draw it out and put my own pattern on that. Seems to work really good. Well, anyway, what we'll do here is I'll get set up on the grip part of it and we'll get that checkered. All right, here we are getting ready to do the grip. Checker the grip on this stock here. We got the one side done there, completed. And we got the top part done up here on this one. Now I'm fixing to do the grip, and what I've done is I went on ahead and I made my little pattern. And I've also laid it out on there, and I made little dots at all the points. And I've already connected the dots. And you can see how I draw it on there with a pencil. And of course, don't take it for granted that's going to be perfect. So what you want to do is, you want to go the extra step, shine your light around, making sure that the lines are pretty much even on each side. You won't, the goal is not to make one side over further than the others. Try to make them perfectly even. Look at the center where the trigger guard's going to be. I mean, yeah, if it's off a little bit, it ain't going to make that big a difference. But, you know, obviously the worse it is, the more you're going to notice it. So, anyway, you want to use some common sense, looking at this side here too, making sure that all that right there is lined up even with this cutout right here. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. You know, it's the same thing here. You want to make sure up here is all nice and even and contoured. That way when you turn it over, you know, on its back, you can see that, you know, you get the same amount of checkering showing, looking at it through the front part. Same way with this grip area here. And, you know, all that little pattern's going to do, that's just going to kind of give you a little reference point. You know, just turn it on, put it upside down. And I even have to go back and kind of tweak it a little bit because, you know, sometimes the wood might be, I don't know, dipped out a little further on one side. Not really enough to notice, but you can sure notice it when you go to put checkering on there. So, anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the camera off. I'm going to take my little indentation tool here and I'm going to ever so slightly cut me a little groove in that with this. Then I'm going to take my other little tool, which would be this one right here. And I'm going to kind of go a little deeper with that. That way, when I go to lay the checkering down, the little slide part of the checkering cutter tool here will glide smoothly in that little track I just made. And we'll just kind of keep taking it from there. So I'll go ahead and get started on it. And I'll give you a progress report here in a few minutes. All right, folks. We got it all finished as far as the checkering is concerned. I went on ahead and put a little True Oil on it. First coat of True Oil on it. That way you can see it a little bit better. And plus it helps me to see any imperfections that I might have left behind. Not only on the checkering, but on the wood itself. See a little imperfection right there. Not much to speak of. So what I'll do is I'll let that dry. And then I'll just kind of touch it up with sandpaper here and there. And then we'll start putting more True Oil on it. First, after this dries, I'll take masking tape and I'll go ahead and tape up these checkerings I put in there because we don't want them to fill in. It's that one coat there is all we're going to need on that, just to kind of seal them. And then when I get ready to put the polyurethane on there, I'll peel all that tape off and, you know, sand it all down with 00 steel wool until it's really, really smooth to the touch. And then I'll spray it with a really shiny polyurethane, and we'll go back and polish that. And that'll really give it a deep, thick, shiny look. And when we get the barrel all blued and the bolt jeweled and all that, that'll all come together and look like a little trophy. So I think the customer will really be pleased with it. I've already got the first coat of True Oil on here, the base coat. So now what I'm doing now is I'm putting the tape, the masking tape, over the checkerings. I done this side right here. I mean, it's just all common sense. Just take a piece of tape, you know, wide tape, stick it on there and then tape around it. That's basically all that boils down to. So I'm going to do this side right here. And then I'm going to put another coat of True Oil on this. And I'll keep doing this procedure of the True Oil until it's really smooth to the touch. And when I'm satisfied with it, I'll pull the tape off, and then we'll put our polyurethane over that. And then we'll polish it once it sits up and dries. All right, folks. Getting ready to put the third coat of True Oil on this stock here. Coming along quite well. I'll tell you what my concern was, was when they had these cut out in here. They did a really good job. Looks really great. The only thing that concerns me about this is, you know, this thing's liable to be around for the next 200 years, and that's great. And I believe it will, because, you know, they just make a firearm, especially the old ones, just last and last and last. But right here, you'll notice the little indiption there in the D. Most likely, if we don't reinforce that some way, that's going to break off, and then it ain't going to look so nice. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to fill that with colored aqua glass. And then when I sand over it, you'll still be able to make the letters out, and it'll be reinforced, and we ain't got to worry about that breaking off. It'll be almost like this right here. They put wood in that, and in my opinion, they should have put wood in that as well. But since they didn't, and we got it down here, and I just feel like it'd be a good idea to go ahead and mix up some colored aqua glass, probably mix up some brown aqua glass, and start filling that in. So I'll cut the camera off, and basically it's just half and half of a gel mixture. Aqua glass is all it is. And what I'll do is I'll get that all mixed up and show you the procedure with that. Here's our aqua glass. It'll just be half of that to half of that. 1 part hardener, 1 part aqua gel. And then I got some brown color that we'll put in there to, well, that's the black actually. I've already laid the brown out. And that'll color it brown, and then I'll mix it all up, and I will set the camera up and show myself putting it in here. All right, folks, done got the aqua glass all mixed up. Just basically mix half and half is the mixture ratio on this. Got the coloring in there. That's about the right tone we want. And just make sure it's all good and mixed up. Kind of got the camera set up here where I want, where hopefully everybody can see what's going on here. And it ain't nothing but just common sense. Just take your little mixer. Use a popsicle stick if you ain't got one of these fancy mixers. And you just want to just press it in there. It's basically like so. Just want to make sure there ain't no air bubbles in it. And of course, once this dries, I'll take a block sander and just sand over the top of it. Now, you don't want no surprises in here when you're sanding. You want to make sure that you don't sand down into an air bubble. Then you ain't got no aqua glass in there. And it's better to go ahead and get all this done right the first time. And because what it all boils down to is, once it dries, aqua glass really has a hard time sticking back on aqua glass. It's already dried. You know, it's about like anything. I guess once it dries, it creates a false adhesive to it. And you can see the little bubbles right there. So we just want to make sure that we cover them in. And I always kind of go up a little bit higher than what my project is. That way I can sand down to it and just kind of swirl it around like a frosting on a cake, I guess. I mean, I'm going to knock it all down with a block sander anyway. So the main thing is just making sure there ain't no bubbles left behind in here. And if there is, it ain't the end of the world. You can always stick a little more over it. Like I said, it's better to do it right the first time here, but sometimes it don't work out that way sometimes with this stuff. I could just skim over it and be done with it, and it'd be less sanding. But I've always felt, I always had better results, just kind of building it up a little on the high side and swirling it around and giving it a chance to bust all them bubbles that's down inside there. And just let that conform to it. And then what I'll do, set this down out of the way, is I'll set this stock up. Since I got it in this little holder here, I'll set it up, let's see if I can, to where it's level. Get the camera out of the way where I can, you know, to where it's nice and level. And what that's going to do, it's going to let the law of gravity kick in. And of course, that's kind of a gel, but it's still going to make sure everything pushes down. And it might just be, you know, just a little bit every 2 hours, but that every little bit's going to make sure every little corner is filled in. So when I come back up here and sand that down, if that sets up really good, hopefully everything will be filled in nice and we won't have to worry about putting more aqua glass over it. And I don't believe we will. We'll just have to see the results, but I think we've got that filled in really good. And we'll just take our block sander to it and see what happens. Okay, here we are a couple of days later. Got the stuff all set up real good. I think everybody can see that. What I thought I'd do is we'll go ahead and sand that down. Start out with a file. What you want to do, you just want to kind of skim over the aqua glass. Stuff's hard as a rock. Try to stay off the wood. Do this where everybody can see it. So far so good. I don't see any air pockets that was left behind in it. If you do get into the wood a little bit, it ain't no real big deal. The purpose of doing it this way is just to cut the aqua glass off. And we're getting back down to the wording, or the initials that was left in there. And you will get into the wood just a little bit. Just have to kind of control the file, I guess. Take a few minutes to get it down there. We don't want to rush it. Said the object of the game at this point is just take the aqua glass off and get it down as close as we can to the wood. Keep everything feathered in. You don't want to cut any gaps in it. Of course, I should have done this before I even put the first coat of True Oil on it. That would have been the right order to do it, but it's still good. We ain't got but 2 coats of oil on it right now. We'll just hit this spot right here a couple of times and catch it back up before proceeding with the rest of the finish over the whole stock. Kind of using the corner of the file, focusing on the high points of the aqua glass. It's going to seem like it was a foot thick deep on there when you're doing this, which is a good thing. It gives you plenty of aqua glass to work down, and it just puts the odds of the air pockets not being in it on your side. And be ever so careful with it. Staying focused on the high spots of the aqua glass. Of course, there's no high spots of the wood. Everything's pretty level. Keep the file moving, keep feathering it in. I could rush on ahead and really put a lot of pressure on it and start cutting it fast, but it's best to take it slow and don't take off more than you can afford. I can see the lettering starting to come through now. Sort of like one of them old Polaroids. It kind of starts developing before your eyes. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a block sander, probably at this point here, maybe take a little more off this end up here, kind of keep things feathered in, everything's nice and contoured. Yeah, now we're done with the file. So now what I'm going to do now is, maybe hit a little more right in here. I said we were done with the file. There we go. Now I believe we're done with the file. Hope everybody can see that. What I'm going to do now is I will take a block sander with a real fine piece of sandpaper on it, maybe some 320, something like it, 280, somewhere around that neighborhood, and just kind of smooth it all out real nice. Then kind of go up to maybe some 400 grit, 360 to 400 grit, just really fine tune that, smooth it out real good, and then just put a layer of true oil on this, just so it's one spot right here. Let that set up, then put another layer on it, just kind of catch everything back up, and then do the whole stock, and then go ahead and put our third coat of true oil on that. But I think everybody gets the idea how that's done. I'll hit over with a block sander, and then I'll show the result, and then I'll show myself putting the true oil on it, and we'll just keep chipping away at it. Went over with some sandpaper. Everything looks really smooth and got a nice feel to it. Always look at it and kind of compare it to the other side by looking at it straight down like that right there, and make sure you know that it's not dipped or anything like that. Everything here looks really good and contoured with each other, and so just kind of lightly buffing over it real good. And just take you some 00 steel wool and kind of buff over on one side of it there. You got an air hose, kind of blow it off. And I know I said I'd mentioned the little air bubbles that form, and this in here does have a few little ones. I mean, not really much at all to speak of. In a case like that, I wouldn't worry about putting any more true oil over them, you know, and going through the little process. In this case here, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of true oil. I'm going to put a a light coat on this, just this area right here. Let it set up. Then buff it down tomorrow with some steel wool, 00 steel wool, and then put a second coat on it. And then I'm gonna buff the whole stock. And then we'll put a third coat over the whole thing. And what I like doing on my True Oil here, which is a brand new bottle, I'll just take it, and instead of just peeling all that off, take you a toothpick, punch a little hole in it, and to me that just seems to work better instead of having all that opened up. So it ain't gonna take much. We're just gonna kind of catch this back up. And don't worry about putting it on the butt plate. They've glued that butt plate on there, so I'm gonna work around that. And what I'll end up doing is probably taping it off and polishing it separate, or maybe I'll just polyurethane over the butt plate as well. We'll just look at it and kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. There we are. Kind of go across the grains with it. Good and sure everything's good and filled in. It's going to take you a few layers, probably about 5 to 10 coats to get all your grain filled in. They got grain fillers, but this right here seems to work the best for me as far as filling in grain. And I'll show you my procedure on all this. But anyway, what that's doing is, I think I've explained these little, like on that D right there, that centerpiece, without that reinforcement of that aqua glass, sooner or later that's probably going to break off. It's not going to look like a D no more. Same way with this D, and the little pieces in that S, right up in there in that H, you know, them things sooner or later will probably break off because they were kind of deep. What that aqua glass done is just kind of reinforcing everything, and basically just reinforcing it, so we ain't got to worry about that happening. Just kind of going across the grain with it, filling in the grain, going all the way up to this point right here. Now, we'll let that set up, and probably this evening or tomorrow morning for sure, we'll put a second coat of oil in this area here, and then we'll go with a third coat after that second coat sets up, and we'll proceed to continue to put the finish on here. All right, folks, here we are in the polishing room. What I thought we'd do while we're waiting on that True Oil to dry in there, to get ready to put our third coat of True Oil on it, while that's in there curing out and drying, I thought we'd go ahead and take this opportunity to go ahead and start polishing up on the metal here. What I thought I'd do is put the 500 on here, 500 loose muslin wheel, not stitched, but loose. And it's got a few little rust spots here and there, not really much to speak of. So what I would do in a situation like this is I would go ahead and polish over with 500 and getting all the little rust spots off of it. And then after I do that, I'll be able to tell how deep those pits are. And if it's got any little deep pits in there, then I'll probably either continue to polish with this until they disappear, or maybe go up with a little bit harder wheel, or maybe go over here to the cylinder wheel on this machine over here and just kind of focus on them spots, but get feathering them out the whole way, making sure I don't dip it out. So I've done turned the fan off and all, so I'm just going to kind of leave the background noise turned off, you know, the fan, things like that. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me when I turn this machine on. It'll kind of muffle a little bit. I'll try to speak up where you can understand what I'm saying. So hopefully at least you can see how I'm going about doing this. Basically go horizontal like this right here. Being really careful over the stampings. whole lot of dust kicking up right now, so that's a good thing. Most of the time I'll have the fan going, I'll even have a dust mask on, but in this case here, because I want to talk and kind of explain things as I go, we'll just leave that off no longer than we're going to be doing this. But under any other circumstance, I'd have the fan going and the little dust mask on. Can't stress enough how important it is to wear your safety equipment. Most of the time in here, the fan is really putting out a lot of vacuum wind. In other words, it's all going out towards the fan there. In most cases, in my case, it ain't really necessary to wear a dust mask. But if you got one with a lot of rust on it, I usually put the fan on and the dust mask. Down here is cleaning up really nice. Like I said, didn't really have no real bad rust to speak of on it. Like any kind of polishing, you just want to make sure you kind of stay away from them corners and you don't spend a lot of time on the serial numbers and stampings and things like that. In this case right here, it's in really good shape where the stampings are. They're kind of lightly stamped anyway, but not really light enough to where we're going to make any kind of difference in it with these polishing wheels. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of looking real close, trying to find some pits in it if it's got any. I didn't knock the rust off. Got a few little bitty ones right here, but I think we can knock them down real good with this polishing wheel. Of course, the shinier it gets, the more you'll be able to spot them. That's why, since we're going to put a high polish on this gun, I thought we'd start out with the 555, or not the 555, but the 500, I'm sorry. The 555 will come, next when I'm ready to start the real high polish procedure. And you know what's funny, because I can make a video on every gun I refinish, and there'll be something different on every one of them. So, there's a base to doing it, but every situation's going to be unique. In this case here, it don't look like it's going to be too bad at all because it doesn't really have any rust on it to begin with. And any pits that's in it, I think we'll be able to take care of them with this wheel right here. Right here where the barrel joins the receiver, got a really nice sharp edge there. We'll make sure we keep that as sharp as we can by staying off of it with that polishing wheel, just kind of turning it as we go there. Trying to put the original polish marks back in it. Looks like a spun look, if that's what we're looking for. Trying to keep them nice and even, keep the rings nice and contour with the barrel. I'm really light with it. When you do this, you can see the brush marks I just made before. They're going in a different direction, obviously. They're going in that direction. And now I'm putting the new rings in it, or brush marks going in this direction. And what I'll do is I'll just keep doing this until those brush marks I put in there first totally go away. Meanwhile, I'm keeping a good eye on the stamp. It's making sure nothing gets any lighter than what it is. Keeping everything feathered out. Really nice. What I'll do is is I'll cut the camera off. I won't bore you with sitting here probably for the next 30 minutes to an hour doing this. I'm just going to keep this procedure going. I think we'll be all right with this wheel we got right here on here. And when I get it all looking like a standard finish, which is, you know, what I would do if the guy didn't want a real high polish on it. When I get it looking like the standard finish, then that's when I'm going to change over to the 555, which would be the white polish no ray. And then we'll, you know, polish them with a horizontal direction. And then we'll start going just like we're doing this right here until it turns into a mirror look. And of course, when we blue that, it'll be like a black chrome. So I'll just cut the camera off and I'll just keep working until we get those first polishing marks out. And then when I get ready for the 555, we'll cut the camera back on and I'll show you the progress. I believe I've got it all polished down really good. Got all the brush marks in it. You can see how the light kind of reflects it. Everything looks really nice on it. So what I'm going to do now is, I've already got the 555 wheel set up here. And we'll just kind of keep the same procedure here. So I got the fan off. Just going to kind of give you an idea how this is done. Same procedure as, you know, the 500. Start out horizontal. Tell when you start putting that really shiny finish on there, you can tell if there's any spots you might have missed. And of course, if there is, you just put the 500 back on there and you just kind of focus on that procedure. So then it's kind of frustrating because you'll get it really shiny and then you'll look down there and say, oh, there's some spot I missed, you know. And you got to put the 500 back on and you got to kind of blend all that in. But don't get discouraged. You're better off going on and doing that then kind of letting it go, and then you're disappointed after you get glued. So anyway, keep a horizontal motion like this right here. Time with it, don't try to rush it. See if you can see that. You can see it starting to shine up now. And those little brush marks I put in there before, you know, like a spun look, you'll still be able to see a hint of them. And it's crazy because it kind of reflects the light. It makes it look even nicer, in my opinion. You're just polishing them out, going horizontal with it. Then when it's all said and done, I'm finished, and I'll put them back in there this way right here. And this wheel right here is not going to really knock any corners off or funnel out any holes. I mean, it will if you just hold it there for a long, long time. But all it's going to do is just smooth everything out. Tape everything down nice and smooth. And a really good job. This is a loose muslin wheel, 555, loose muslin wheel. Take your time, do sections at a time. Right now I'm just kind of focus on this part right here all the way around. Then I'll just work my way on up to this end right here. And I'll turn it over, you know, and do the receiver. And I'll just keep doing that until it really turns out real shiny. And I think everybody kind of gets the idea of what's going on here with that. Turned out really nice. Get it back here where it'll focus. Probably what I'll end up doing after I get it all polished up and I'm all done with the polish on this, I'm going to take this sight off, or I'm going to tape around the sight. Then I'm going to take it out to the sandblasting area, and I'm just going to put a matte finish on that sight. That's kind of a casted sight, which, I mean, I could probably smooth it out real shiny, but in most cases it's better to go ahead and put a matte finish on that. And I noticed here on the back side, this part here is kind of shiny, but it's got a matte back peep side on it as well. So I'll just cut the camera off and I'll just go ahead, you know, and polish this out real good and until I'm really happy with the mirror look on it. And then we'll just cut the camera back on and just keep showing you the different steps to get this real high polish achieved on this particular rifle. Alright, I believe we've got her all polished up. Looks really nice. Got all the little bad places out of it. I think what we'll do next is take the sides of the front sight off and just maybe bead blast the front part up and down through here. That way it'll have a matte look to it. And then we'll do the same to the back side. It already had a matte look to it as well. But just kind of wanted to show everybody this. All the engraving and everything is still good and deep in it. I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus. But anyway, it turned out really nice. Got me some little holders there. Got a crown protector on it made out of brass, and that's aluminum. That's just another little tip for anybody who's doing this. Got a little dowel rod put in the back up here. Just kind of helps you to hold it, you know, good and stout, and that way you ain't got to worry about it coming out of your hand and hitting the ground or anything. I guess our next step's going to be to go ahead and polish up the trigger guard and polish up the other little parts with it. And we'll just keep taking it step by step until we get us a finished product. All right, got it all polished up. Got all the little bad spots that was in it out. Didn't really have very many bad spots at all. Went on ahead and put the matte finish on the top of the side here. Got the back with a matte finish on it as well. Got the trigger guard all polished out. Looks real nice. Now what I'll do is I'll spray some stuff called Hold on it so it won't rust back up on us until bluing day, which will probably happen one day this week. Next couple of days we should be bluing it, and the stock, we'll get back on that in a few minutes and go ahead and put us a third coat. I went on ahead and put the other coat on the spot where we filled it in with aqua glass, but we'll be ready to put the third coat of True Oil on the stock here in a few minutes, and we'll go over that and just keep chipping away at it until we got us a finished product. All right, here we are back in the woodworking room here, getting ready to put our third coat of True Oil on this stock. I went on ahead and put some on this right here and kind of got everything all evened up now. And basically, as you've seen in videos in the past, when I'm applying this True Oil, the first thing I want to do is take some 00 steel wool, smooth everything up even. What I always like doing is just doing pretty much one side first. Being careful not to peel my tape off the checkering. Going in one direction here, keeping it stuck down. It ain't got to be just perfect, because I can go. What I'll probably end up doing is after I peel the tape off, obviously I'll clean all that tape off, and then I'll take my checkering tool and kind of sharpen the edges and make sure that there isn't any True Oil in that. That way when I put the final finish on there, it'll be, you know, nice and sharp looking. Basically, we want to keep doing this until the finish gets dull, like what you see right here. It'll go from, you know, the shiny finish to the dull finish. And I'll just keep doing this with this steel wool. And then what I'll do is apply the True Oil to it. I'll just cut the camera off and go ahead and polish it down with this 00 steel wool. I won't bore you with all this because it'll take another 5 minutes. And for video's sake here, try to keep it, you know, short and sweet, I guess. When I do get all the shiny finish buffed off, I'll turn the camera back on and I'll apply the True Oil, and that'll be our third coat. All right, folks, got the shiny finish all buffed off. That's what it should look like. It should be smooth to the touch, and you can still see open grain in the wood, and that's the purpose of putting all these coats of True Oil on it, because what we want to do is we want to smooth it down and close in all the open grain with this True Oil. And you know, it'll all take 10 coats. Just basically apply it on there, not a whole lot of it at one time, just a nice light coat, I guess, and going in all different directions, mainly going across the grain, and that'll cause that grain to fill in, which is what we want. And what we'll do is we'll just keep repeating this process. I probably won't show every time I put it on there, because I may have to put 10 coats of it on there, and I think everybody kind of gets the idea here. So I'll show you the end result, what it'll look like. I'll probably show myself spraying it with the polyurethane. Usually I'll have it in there in the room hanging, but for video's sake, I'm just going to leave it on this little holder here. Probably just let it dry on the holder. And well, I may take it in there just to make sure I don't get no dust on it, because it's going to be kind of dusty in here today. So I'll put it in there in the room, keep the dust off of it. That's important too. Just try to keep it somewhere where there ain't a lot of dust. It ain't gonna matter too much about it, because this isn't the last coat, but I want to keep it as clean as we can. So anyway, that's what it should look like. We'll let that dry. That'd be our third coat, I believe, and then we'll put a fourth coat on, and as many coats as it takes. I'm figuring probably anywhere from maybe 6 to 8 coats, maybe even 10. But we'll just have to do what we have to do. That's one of the things about especially open grain wood like this walnut here. It's really hard to say how many coats it's going to take. Just depends on how bad that grain's opened. So, you know, usually not no more than 10 coats, but anyway, it's turned out really nice. All right, I believe I got it ready to be sprayed now with some polyurethane. Got about 8 coats of True Oil on this. Buffed over it with a 00 steel wool to where it's really smooth to the touch. I looked real hard. I did see a few open grains in this, and what I'll do is I will set my sprayer up with a polyurethane in it, and then I'll spray it, and I'll, you know, look at them areas, and if they're really noticeable, then I always have me a can of mineral spirits sitting down there, and I'll just take me some clean paper towels, and I'll put the mineral spirits on the paper towels, obviously, and I'll just wipe off the polyurethane that I just sprayed on it off. I'll just get it completely off, let it dry, and then what I'll do is I'll take some True Oil and I'll put it in them areas, and I'll just keep doing this until finally the grain fills in. That is if they're really noticeable. Most of the time, at this point here, you can spray over them and they'll go ahead and fill in with a polyurethane, or at least be to the point where you can't see them, and they'll buff out and polish real nice. That's just kind of a tip, you know. It's just one of them situations that sometimes this wood is really hard for all the grain to fill in. The only way you're gonna know is spray it, look at it, and if it looks good, thumbs up, great. And if you got any doubts whatsoever, you're better off going on with the mineral spirits on that paper towel and just cleaning it back off, putting some True Oil in them areas, let that True Oil dry, and just keep doing that until you finally fill in all that open grain, wherever it may be. Usually right in this area right here, and right down in here, and sometimes right up in here is where it's really bad at for some crazy reason. I don't know why, but that's usually where your open grain is. Very rarely is it in the middle, but in this case here, I believe we got it all filled in. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the camera off, set the sprayer up, and go ahead and spray it, and we'll see what it's going to look like. I believe it's going to turn out real nice. All right, folks, hope y'all can hear me. I know I'm kind of muffled with this respirator on. I'm going to go ahead and spray this stock here. I already got everything set up. I'm going to just kind of show you the technique of spraying it, and hope you can hear me. And I will be cutting the fan on. spray another coat on it. So far, so good. Kind of looking for dry spots at this point. We'll let that sit there for a minute, kind of cure out. Then I'll probably put another good coat on it. I'll turn it from one direction to the other in case there is any potential runs there. You know, it kind of helps the runs, kind of keeps them down to a minimum. So we'll just kind of keep repeating this process, and if it looks really good, I'll go ahead and let it dry, and then we'll polish it. it's going to turn out real good. I hope everybody can see me. I don't know how that camera's angled. We'll let that dry, and we'll look at it, and then we will polish it down, and we should have us a finished stock. All right, folks, here we are in the area where we're going to be jeweling the bolt. I went on ahead and took it apart, you know, and polished it. Put a really good high shine on it. There's the handle there, the firing pin handle. Got it taken off, and basically just want to go ahead and get it all set up. Had to do a little bit of rigging here on it, but I believe we're set to go. And basically is going to just be a few strips of this jeweling, because of the receiver is kind of small and you can't really see it real good. I think I've got the camera positioned to where everybody can kind of sort of get a bird's eye view, but I'll probably just do a few lines here and we'll just kind of see what happens with it. I've already got the rouge on here, got the brush and everything adjusted, so let's see. Like I said, I had to do a little bit of rigging on it to get this to fit up in here, and it seemed like it's doing really good. And when you're doing this kind of work, you'll be coming up with all kind of ideas. You don't never really know what you're going to be doing. This bolt here's got a few little obstacles in the way. I believe we can get around them really nice. Barely see the bolt moving. That's a good sign. That lets me know that I'm putting just the right amount of pressure on it. And I also marked everything to make sure ain't nothing moving on me accidentally. I kind of sort of use the movement of the bolt as I put the pressure down on it. Kind of lets me know if I'm putting the right amount of pressure on it. It's kind of one of them gauge systems, I guess. And if the bolt don't move at all, then I kind of use the flaring of a little brush here that I'm using to do the actual engine tooling, or jeweling rather. Call it engine tooling in some areas. That's all it's called, is boat jeweling. Okay. Get all the way back to point 0. Then move her over a little bit. Procedure. Usually when you got a rigging like this right here, you just, the main thing you want to do is once you get it all set up, like I said, they've kind of got pressure points on it here. Got a pressure point, don't have nothing actually stuck into the end of the bolt because we can get no hole in the middle of the bolt because it's a centerfire. So I've got a little clutching system there. It just kind of presses it up against the back of this shaft right here. And so we just want to make sure we don't push it out of its point of contact here on the end here. We've got it precise where we want it, and I just don't want to move it. So you're just constantly kind of watching everything as you go. Worst thing to, ain't nothing no worse than get it almost finished and the thing falls out of it. Then you've done lost your point of contact. This is an unusual bolt, and it's not one like a Mauser bolt or a Remington 700, say. I actually had to cut a little adapter out on the lathe there to make this work. I had to think outside the box a little bit. A little more of this polish and rouge up here in this area here. Good point of contact. Get it started. Just keep repeating this process until we got it jeweled where we want it. I believe everybody's got the idea. What I'll do is I'll just cut the camera off and I'll go ahead and finish it up, and I'll show you the finished results. All right, there it is, folks, already jeweled up. I went ahead and just put the bolt handle in there, and or the firing pin knob. It turned out really nice. I'm going to put the pin in, go ahead and reassemble this. We didn't bother to jewel the very bottom of that because that's going to be up in the gun. It's just such a small window on the receiver. You won't be able to see a whole lot of that, so there ain't no sense in jeweling the bottom of that. But anyway, kind of glimmers when you move it back and forth, which is what we want. So we'll move on to the next step, which will be probably polishing out the stock after it dries really nice. And then we'll be bluing the rifle probably tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and we'll kind of go over some steps when we do that. All right, here we are in the old polishing room. I've got the stock. I've done it's done dried really nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next step here. Basically, I'm just going to polish it down. You just want to be careful not to over polish it. You want to really be careful with it. You don't want it to grab and throw it into the machine or up against the wall, because then you're going to have to take it all back down and redo it. So it's just a situation where you really got to use a lot of caution, be real still, and easy with it, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Don't get no hurry with it, and just polish over it. And I'll kind of polish it and kind of give you an example. I'll cut the fan on here, and that way we'll have proper ventilation here as we do this. 555 polishing already. Usually just one muslin wheel, loose muslin wheel is what this is, unstitched. I like polishing a gun, you know, you just want to always stay focused on it. Don't try to, you know, polish it this way, because it'll, you know, it's a grabbing point when you do that. You want to make sure everything flows over it like rain on a roof. It's, when the rain hits the roof, it just kind of goes off like a slide, you know. Follow my analogy to that, but I'll try to set an example by doing this. Hopefully you can see how I'm doing it. What we're doing, folks, is we're just polishing out any of the orange peel that may have formed during the spray. Kind of smoothing everything up, basically. And I just do sections at a time. I don't do the whole thing. I just kind of polish it up sections at a time. Going real light with it. Using good judgment, good common sense as you do this. Obviously, this right here is a whole lot more tedious than metal. So you want to really be careful with it. All it takes is one dent, and then you're going to have to redo the whole thing. So, very light. You don't want to burn it. You want to just keep it light. Be real careful, even when you turn it around. This is a really close area, and I don't want to turn it around and bump something with it, you know. So, just really got to be careful. And I say all this. I know it sounds quite common sense, but I tell you what, I've done it many times, so I was like, well, you know what, I better stress that point. Just take it slow and easy. Even around your environment here, you want to make sure you don't spin the stock around to get another angle and then, you know, hit something with it. Very light, very tedious. Especially around these corners and stuff. That's where it'll grab it and then it'll burn. It'll burn the corners off and stuff like that, or the finish. You want to polish the corners because you want to make sure there ain't hardly no pressure on them. Just let the machine just glide over it, or the wheel just glide over it, the polishing wheel. It's going to take a while to do this. Again, no hurry. That might take as much as an hour to do a stop doing this. But it's really the only way that I've found to make it look really nice. I guess about like when they polish a guitar down at the guitar factory, they polish over the finish with a bucket wheel. That's kind of how I got that idea. Always looking for that orange peel to kind of fade away. We clean it at a 555 on it. Keeping your mind focused on what's going on here. Unlike metal, the wood, the corners polish off real quick. Then you ain't got no finish on it. Then you're going to have to refinish the corners and stuff like that. Basically going to refinish the whole thing. So there ain't really no whole lot of room for error when it comes to this point right here. Don't want to over polish it. You'll know when you've over polished it because you'll start having dull spots form in it. But then what you got to do in that case is put it back over there on your holding vise and then polish it all down with 00 steel wool. Just knock the shine off with 00 steel wool. Make sure it's dull. Smooth back over it again and then spray it. There's a lot of tedious work involved in doing one of these. But after you do a few of them, you'll get the feel for it. That's what it all boils down to, is experience. Just, you know, trial and error. Like anything else. Get a paper towel. Be careful not to bump it. I believe you can see maybe how that's really taking a nice shine. Which it was shiny anyway, but it's a smooth shine now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the camera off where I can really stay focused, and I'll show you the after result. Alright, I've been polishing this now, I guess about, I don't know, about 30-35 minutes. Got it pretty slick. I can't stress enough, you know, about how important it is, you know, that when you're doing this, just make sure you recognize your environment around here, you know, whatever your situation may be. Mine's pretty close here. So you just want to make sure when you turn in the stock over and stuff like that, you don't bump it into something, you know. So that's the number one thing you want to kind of keep in mind of. And number two is you just want to make sure, you know, you ain't got no big rings on and stuff like that, or even fingernails. I mean, just anything, all those little factors. It really causes a lot of stress in your life. You know, if you'll cover all those bases first, everything should go pretty smooth. And, you know, the object of polishing is to get all the little orange peels out of it. Most time when you put it on with a sprayer, it goes on pretty smooth. You know, most of the grain is filled in. There's a few little open grains, really not much to speak of. I don't know if you can see that or not. I mean, you really have to look for it. Let's see. Can't really see them on the camera, but they're not really that visible anyway. And I mean, I don't believe you'll be able to fill them all in. I mean, they got a grain filler, and I've tried that. And some of them, I don't know, it's almost like they get air in them or something. And when you put Truel on them, whatever, it just like blows it out. I don't get it. But anyway, there are very few of them there that you can really tell. You really have to look for them. But anyway, I believe this right here is a done deal. I'm going to put a little oil on it, or something like Pledge furniture polish. Really a good coat to put on that. And I think the customer will really be pleased with that. I'm fixing to go in here now and get ready to blue the receiver and the barrel and all the metal parts for it. Then got the bolt jeweled. Did that yesterday, as a matter of fact, and so it's a new day today. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to blue the metal on it, and then I'll get it all back together. And I believe the customer's gonna try to come down here, and we'll have him hold the gun, and we'll get his opinion on it. Okay, folks, now we're bluing the little rifle. It's bluing day. Our first step is to heat this 909 up to 180 degrees. The rifle's already been submerged in it. What that's going to do, it's going to remove all the left behind, you know, polishing array, any dirt we might have left behind. It's going to take all that off. The whole spray that was sprayed on there to keep it from rusting. And I'll leave it in for about 10 minutes. I've done put it in, set the timer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk us through these steps, step by step. So the number one thing you're going to do is submerge it in the 909 at 180 degrees for 10 minutes. And after that, we'll go to the next step. This is the first step in bluing. Okay, folks, we're in the 909, which is our first step. I've got the camera set up to where we can go from the 909 to the cold water rinse, from the cold water rinse to the bluing tank. I'll just kind of walk you through it. The beeper says it's ready to come out of the first step, which is the 909. We'll take it out of that, and we'll leave it in there no more than 10 minutes. And we'll come from that, cold water rinse. I can let that sit in there for just not over a minute. I'm just kind of looking at it, and I'll just kind of make sure there isn't any grease or polishing array in it. Like I say, don't leave it in there no more than a minute or so. Then we'll come out of the second step, which is the cold water rinse, into the third step, which is the bluing. And these cool cones here kind of help me stay away from it. And we'll let it sit in the bluing for 30 minutes. And I'll go ahead and set the timer. Probably about 15 minutes into it, I'll take it out, put it in the cold water rinse. You ain't got to do this, always do that. That way, if there is any blemishes or if I need to move the gun on the rack, that way I know that the bluing's gonna really get every part of it. Usually when metal's touching metal, it doesn't blue as well. So if you'll move it around a little bit in the middle of the bluing process, it seems to do a whole lot better. But we went from our cleaning solution, 909, at 180 degrees. First step, second step, cold water rinse. Put it in there for about, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, no more than a minute. And out of that, we went into our hot water, our bluing salts, I'm sorry, I'll be right here in a minute. Our bluing salts, I'll say number 7, and it's going to sit in there for 30 minutes. And then we'll take it out of that, back into our cold water rinse, into our boiler tank. And I'll just walk you through each process. All right, we're about 15 minutes into the bluing process. This is just optional. You ain't got to do this. This is just something I've always done. Probably wouldn't hurt just to leave it in the full 30 minutes. About 15 minutes into it, I always take it out, put it in the cold water rinse, and just kind of look it over, move it around. Then I go back into the bluing tank for the last 15 minutes. For is any blemishes that might be on it from where it's laying on top of the metal rack. Just kind of look at the bottom of it, now just kind of move it around a little bit. That way, if there is a little line, you move it up forward a little bit. Just want to glue that, and you know, of course, when you move it up, it's laying on a part that's already been glued. Just all common sense. Then I kind of move it around where if there's screws in the basket, you know, they'll move around a little bit, and the gluing will get to them a lot better. Just something I do. You ain't really got to do this. It always seems to work really good for me. But anyway, we're on our third process here, which is the bluing tank process. And after that, we'll go into our cold water rinse again. Then after that, we'll go into our hot water boil. And I know I seem like I'm repeating myself. None of these videos are rehearsed. So it just boils down to, just want to make sure we get the information out there and everybody gets the point. So if you do this for yourself, you'll know that it's very important to do these in the proper steps. All right, I apologize for the noise. I've got the hot water boiling tank lit up, and I've got the 909 getting set up for the next gun that's going to be put through. We're getting ready to go to our fourth step, which is out of the bluing salts into the cold water rinse. Set in there for a few seconds. It's the cold water rinse, the fourth step after the bluing process. Looks really good. Now we're going to our fifth step, which is the hot water boil. We'll let it sit in there for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, while that's doing its thing, I've got another one ready to run. And it'll sit in here for 10 minutes, and I'll just keep doing this process. After our little rifle comes out of the hot water boil, it's going into the 6th step, which is going to be the water displacement oil right over here. Alright, it's been in the hot water boiler tank now for about 10 minutes, which is the 5th step. Well, don't never want to leave this process out. I mean, it's important to boil it after you take it out of the cold water rinse, after the bluing basically. Bluing, cold water rinse. 5th step here would be the hot water boiler. It boils out any traces of bluing that might have been left behind in the threads where the barrel screws up into the receiver. You know, little places like this. Very important to do this. Leave it in there for about 10 minutes. Been in there about 10 minutes, so we're going to take it out of this right here and go to our our water displacement oil, which will be the 6th step, the last step. And what we'll do is we'll leave that in there anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Very important to do that. And what that's going to do, that's going to displace any morsel of water or anything like that might have been left behind here, and it's going to help the bluing to cure. So very important to do that. I want to make a point here too. Whenever you take it out of the bluing salts, always make sure you keep it wet and put it from the bluing salts to the cold water rinse, because you don't want that bluing salt to dry on there. I know in my early days, I would take it out of the bluing salts and I'd look at it, and of course they blew, it dry on there, and then I'd stick it in the rinse, and then I'd put it back in the bluing salt, and then I'd have spots form on it. Only way you get them spots off is to polish it all back down and start all over. So it's important that you don't let the bluing salts dry on the metal. Keep it wet. That's why I have my rinse tank right here beside the bluing tank. So that's going to kind of highlight that. So now we're on the last process for the little rifle. It's over there in the water displacement oil, where it'll sit there anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Then after that, I'll put it up on the rack and let it cure. And we'll be ready to reassemble it. All right, folks, here it is. We already got it put back together. Looks really good. Got the real high polish on the bluing. Checkered all done on it. Got the real shiny finish on the stock. Jeweled the bolt. Got a little oil on it, but shined up really nice. Believe the customer's really going to be happy with it. Talked to the customer, and he said something about coming in. We'll let him, we'll get his opinion on it when he gets here to get it, and see what he thinks about it. But there's the finished product. All right, the owner of the rifle is here, Mr. Chad Zastro. The gun belongs to Chad, and he's going to be passing it down to his grandson. What do you think about it, Chad?
It's just absolutely beautiful. I can't believe all the detail, the effort. It's just amazing, and it's the slickest thing I've ever seen. It's the smallest rifle in the family, but definitely the nicest.
Well, I know that thing's been in the family a long time, the way I understand it, so
Yep.
It'll probably be here another 100 years, 200 years, bring a lot of squirrels at the table.
That's right.
Well,
I'm sure he'll pass it down also.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, that concludes another exciting video here at Scotty's Gun Works. I believe Mr. Chad Zastro was really happy with the gun. Turned out really nice. I try to go over every step in these videos, and so this particular gun right here kind of went over, you know, from start to finish, how to do this. You know, if you have any questions or anything, or if you're trying to take on a project like this yourself, you know, feel free to give me a call, and I'll try to help you to get through it. Just kind of wanted to show everybody what kind of tools was included in this, and you know, like the previous videos, kind of walk people through it that might be trying to do it for themselves. You know, if you have an old family heirloom or something like that that you might want to have me redo for you, feel free to give me a call. Area code 615-746-9668. And if I don't pick up, just leave me a message and I'll call you back. You know, most of the folks I have to focus on these days is the people who have the old family heirloom that's been in the closet for like 30 years. And the reason why I have to do that is because, I'll just be honest, it'll be a while to get it back to you. But it'll be worth the wait, because when you get it back, it'll be right. Because I don't turn nothing out of here that I wouldn't be happy to receive. So I try to keep it simple, try to turn out work that I'd want to receive, and just turn out a good product. So, you know, if you have any questions, you can give me a call and we'll kind of talk about it. I'll let you know what the work backlog is, and we'll just kind of take it from there. And as usual, I appreciate everybody watching these videos.